Humanity's place in the galaxy has always been a fragile one. Earth, considered by most advanced alien species as a primitive world, has long been a target for exploitation, with humans labeled as little more than beasts. The aliens see humanity's aggression as nothing but raw, unrefined violence, a race lacking the sophistication of more established civilizations. Despite this, Earth's resilience shines through in the small colonies humanity has scattered across the galaxy. Colonies on distant planets where they are subjected to constant alien surveillance and ridicule. The story begins on Draxus 3, a colony located in a disputed part of the galaxy. Draxus 3 is home to a group of human settlers who have been living in peace, working hard to terraform the planet for future generations. However, their peaceful existence is shattered when a combined alien fleet, consisting of the Kaharla, an insectoid species, and the Wylorians, a technologically advanced race, descends upon the planet determined to wipe out the human presence once and for all. The Kaharla, in particular, have been vocal in their belief that humanity's violent tendencies make them unworthy of life in the galaxy. Their intent is clear: eliminate the humans, take the resources, and prevent any future human colonization in the area. Among the settlers, Leora Darn stands out. A former military strategist, she is now a leader in the colony and a voice of reason in a group of individuals who are mostly farmers, engineers, and scientists, all with little combat experience. Leora has always been calm and calculated in her approach to life, but the sudden onslaught of alien forces forces her to act quickly and decisively. She gathers the survivors, organizing a resistance against the alien invaders, even though they are vastly outnumbered and outgunned. As the battle rages on, the humans' primitive weapons seem utterly ineffective against the superior alien technology. Lasers bounce off their shields, and explosives barely dent their heavily armored warships. Yet something extraordinary begins to happen. Just as the aliens close in, something within the humans activates. Cade Corin, a young scientist with an unassuming demeanor, is the first to notice the strange phenomenon. It's subtle at first. A soldier with a gun in hand feels an unnatural surge of energy coursing through him, enough to knock out several Kaharla soldiers with one blow. Then, as Leora leads a charge against an enemy outpost, she experiences an unprecedented clarity of thought, allowing her to anticipate the movements of the enemy and strategize as though she's tapping into some higher level of understanding. The divine power is not technological. There are no hidden weapons or advanced machinery at play. The humans are tapping into something far older, something innate. As the invaders watch in shock and confusion, the humans, who were once seen as mere beasts, begin to fight with an unparalleled ferocity and precision. The Kaharla, who had mocked humanity as primitive animals, are stunned as humans start to overtake their forces. Using cunning tactics and raw explosive power, it's a moment of total upheaval. The alien commanders are left bewildered and helpless, unable to comprehend the transformation happening before their eyes. The humans' previously seen crude methods of defense now seem to border on the divine. With individuals displaying abilities no one could have predicted, it becomes clear that humanity is no longer the weak, defenseless species they had been pegged as. There is something far more potent hidden beneath the surface of these beasts, and the galaxy is on the cusp of witnessing it. Leora, standing amidst the chaos of the battlefield, realizes that this surge of power is no accident. It's the beginning of something monumental. The humans have unlocked something ancient within themselves, something the galaxy has yet to fully understand. The battle ends in a stunning victory for the humans, but the question lingers in the air. What exactly have they unleashed? And, more importantly, what will the galaxy do now that humanity is no longer a mere prey species? In the aftermath of their unexpected victory on Draxus 3, humanity begins to question the source of the incredible power they had unleashed. Leora Darns, Cade Corin, and other key figures within the resistance are haunted by the events of the battle. The aliens were not only repelled, but the humans had displayed extraordinary abilities that seemed impossible for a species once thought to be inferior. These abilities are not technological or learned. There is no device or external force behind them. Instead, they appear to be embedded within humanity's very genetic makeup. But what is their origin, and why have they suddenly awakened? Cade, a brilliant but introspective scientist, becomes obsessed with uncovering the truth. He begins to study the genetic changes within the surviving humans, conducting experiments to understand the nature of the divine power. His findings lead him to a startling revelation. The human genome contains dormant sequences of energy, biological, markers of an ancient power, one that links them to the very fabric of the universe itself. These markers are not of alien origin. They are something that has always been within humanity, lying dormant for millennia. As Cade delves deeper, he discovers evidence of an ancient civilization, long forgotten, that seeded the divine energy within humanity. The civilization, known only in myth, was said to be both revered and feared by the ancient galactic powers. Legends speak of beings capable of wielding powers beyond imagination, power that could alter the very nature of reality. The records, hidden within ancient human artifacts and ruins scattered across Earth and its colonies, suggest that humanity's ancestors had once unlocked this power. But for reasons unknown, they chose to seal it away, fearing what it might lead to. Cade's research is met with skepticism from the wider human population. Some fear that this divine power is a curse, that it will turn humanity into the very monsters the galaxy once feared. Others, like Eris Valen, a military leader who fought on Draxus III, see it as humanity's salvation. Eris believes the power is a gift, a tool to secure humanity's place among the stars, a weapon to prevent any further oppression. He argues that the only way forward is to embrace the power and use it to conquer the galaxy, ensuring that humanity will never be seen as weak again. Leora, ever the pragmatist, takes a more cautious approach. While she is grateful for the victory, she remains wary of the implications of this newfound power. She fears that embracing it could lead humanity down a dangerous path, one where they lose their humanity in the process. The internal struggle grows as factions begin to form among the human colonies. Some see the power as a necessary means of survival, while others fear its corrupting influence. Leora knows that the galaxy will not look kindly on the humans' newfound strength. If the alien empires learn of it, they will stop at nothing to either control or eliminate humanity. Meanwhile, the alien forces, shocked by the defeat on Draxus III, begin to regroup. The Ilorians, Kaharla, and other galactic factions now see humanity in a new light, not as mindless beasts to be exterminated, but as a dangerous force that must be contained. Empress Ilverna, the leader of the Ilorian Empire, declares that humanity must be neutralized before their power spreads beyond control. Her spies begin to monitor human activity, searching for any signs of this divine energy in other colonies. As the tension builds between the factions, the humans themselves are forced to confront the implications of their own power. Leora, Cade, and Eris all find themselves standing at the crossroads of humanity's destiny. Will they harness the divine energy for the greater good, or will they succumb to the same lust for power that has caused so many galactic empires to fall? Humanity's next steps will determine whether they are truly worthy of the divine power within them, or if they will be consumed by it. As the divine power continues to grow within humanity, tensions between factions deepen. The humans who once fought to survive now find themselves on the brink of war, not only with the alien forces that continue to oppress them, but also among themselves. The question of whether to embrace or control this newfound power becomes central to the survival of the human race. Empress Ilverna, the leader of the Ilorian Empire, has declared an all-out war against humanity, mobilizing her forces to eliminate what she now sees as an existential threat. The Kaharla and other alien races, now aware of humanity's unprecedented potential, rally to her side. The galaxy's most powerful fleets converge on human-held colonies, intending to crush them before their power can fully manifest. The aliens, with their superior technology, are confident that they will easily subdue the humans. What they fail to realize is that humanity has transformed into something they can no longer understand. The humans, led by Leora Darnes, Cade, Corin, and Eris Valen, make a bold decision. They will no longer run or hide. Instead, they prepare to fight back, not with the primitive weapons they once used, but with the divine power now coursing through their veins. The initial confrontation is fierce and chaotic. Humanity's military leaders, who were once tacticians and soldiers, now find themselves wielding abilities that defy the laws of physics. Cade, whose research unlocked the secrets of the divine power, begins to understand how to channel it into directed energy, creating shock waves that obliterate enemy warships. Leora, once a strategist, now commands legions with an ethereal presence, her thoughts translating into reality as she bends the environment itself to her will. The humans' first offensive begins with a coordinated strike on a Wylorian fleet in orbit around a nearby moon. The battle is unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. The human fleet, now enhanced with the divine energy, moves with precision and purpose, their weapons firing with devastating accuracy. The Elorians, caught off guard, are unable to respond effectively. Even their most advanced defenses falter against the humans' raw power. Ships are torn apart, and energy blasts warp the very fabric of space. What was once a desperate struggle for survival is now a full-scale counteroffensive. The beasts have evolved into something far more dangerous. Eris Valen, leading a separate division of the human forces, employs new tactics, manipulating energy fields and gravity to disorient and confuse the alien invaders. His troops, empowered by the divine force, fight with an unrelenting ferocity, channeling their aggression into a controlled fury that turns the tide of battle. The aliens, unprepared for the sheer unpredictability and savagery of the humans, are forced into retreat. The galaxy begins to take notice. The once dismissed humans have turned the tables, and their enemies now face the reality that humanity is no longer a weak, primitive species. But with this newfound power comes a terrifying truth. Humanity has become a force of nature, capable of altering the very fabric of reality itself. As they unleash more of the divine power, they grow stronger and more ruthless, their abilities growing with each battle. However, there is a growing concern among the human leadership. How long can they control this power before it consumes them? In the midst of these victories, however, the cracks in humanity's unity begin to show. While some embrace the divine power as a necessary tool to secure their survival, others, like Leora, begin to worry about the cost. The more the humans use the divine power, the more they risk losing themselves in the process. Eris Valen, driven by the desire for vengeance and glory, becomes more obsessed with harnessing this energy to its fullest potential. His ambition begins to eclipse the greater good, and his increasingly reckless actions cause friction among the ranks. The victory on the battlefield is undeniable, but the true test of humanity's power is just beginning. The alien empires, now fully aware of the threat posed by humans, prepare for their final assault. As the battle for the galaxy's future intensifies, humanity must grapple with the consequences of unlocking their divine power. Will they be able to control it, or will they become the very monsters they sought to destroy? With their newfound power, humanity has shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. The once dismissed beasts have turned into a formidable threat, and the alien empires are now in full retreat. The Elorians, Kaharla, and their allies, realizing the true potential of humanity's divine power, must confront the terrifying possibility that their centuries of dominance are coming to an end. Empress Ilverna, desperate to maintain control, assembles a coalition of alien species to launch a final, all-out offensive to destroy humanity once and for all. But humanity's leadership, under the command of Leora Darnes, Eris Valen, and Cade, Corrin, refuses to back down. They know that this is the pivotal moment. Either humanity will secure its future in the galaxy or risk annihilation at the hands of the united alien forces. The humans, for the first time in their history, are on the offensive, not as desperate survivors but as conquerors, wielding a power far beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. The first strike comes against the Kaharla homeworld, a brutal, insectoid planet known for its impenetrable defenses and ruthless warriors. The human forces, empowered by the divine energy, descend upon the planet in a coordinated attack, unlike anything the Kaharla have ever faced. As the humans make landfall, they bend the very elements to their will, creating storms of fire and lightning that tear through the Kaharla defenses. Cade, now a master of harnessing the divine power, leads a strike team deep into the heart of Kaharla territory, where he uncovers ancient secrets buried beneath the planet's surface. There, he discovers that the Kaharla had been aware of humanity's dormant potential all along, having tried and failed to control it for centuries. Meanwhile, Leora and Eris lead the main assault on the Kaharla capital. Leora's newfound powers allow her to predict enemy movements and manipulate time itself, giving her forces an overwhelming advantage. Eris, driven by vengeance and glory, taps into the divine power with ruthless efficiency, his soldiers becoming an unstoppable force of nature. Together they push deeper into Kaharla-held space, overwhelming the enemy's defenses and leaving their once impenetrable fortresses in ruins. As the Kaharla forces are decimated, the Elorians begin to panic. Empress Ilverna, fearing the destruction of her empire, deploys her last line of defense. A massive fleet of warships, each equipped with the most advanced weaponry known to the galaxy. But this time humanity is ready. The humans' fleet, once small and technologically inferior, now stands as a force to be reckoned with. Using their divine powers, they manipulate gravity, creating massive gravitational anomalies that trap the Elorian ships in a gravitational field. The battle is over before it begins, as the Elorians are unable to escape the trap set by humanity's superior abilities. Empress Ilverna herself faces Leora in a final confrontation. The two women, once on opposite sides, now engage in a battle of wills, their powers clashing in a cataclysmic display of energy. Leora, using her divine abilities, is able to outmaneuver the Elorian leader, who underestimates the depth of humanity's newfound strength. In the end, Ilverna is defeated, her empire shattered, and humanity stands victorious. However, this victory comes at a steep price. As the divine energy surges through humanity, a growing unease spreads among the leaders. The more they wield the power, the more they risk becoming what they despise, tyrants, driven by ambition and the thirst for control. Despite their triumphs, cracks are beginning to show in the human coalition. Eris Valen in particular begins to push for a full-scale expansion of humanity's reach, seeking to establish a galactic empire based on the divine power they've unlocked. Leora and Cade are increasingly concerned by the path humanity is taking. They fear that the more they use the divine power, the closer they come to losing their humanity altogether. In the wake of their victory, they must now decide what kind of future they want for their people. Will they create a new, benevolent order, or will they fall into the same cycle of conquest and destruction that has plagued the galaxy for centuries? The fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and the question remains: can they control the power they've unleashed, or will it consume them? Humanity's rise to power has shaken the galaxy to its core, but it has also sown seeds of division within their own ranks. The victory over the Kaharla and the Elorians has left the human race with unprecedented power, but as they taste the fruits of their conquest, internal conflicts begin to emerge, threatening to tear their fragile unity apart. The divine energy that has fueled their triumphs now comes with a heavy burden. The more it is used, the more it begins to distort the very nature of humanity. Eris Valen, once a soldier driven by vengeance, has become obsessed with the idea of building a galactic empire using humanity's newfound divine power. His vision is one of unrestrained domination, believing that the only way to guarantee humanity's survival is through total control of the galaxy. He pushes for the establishment of a new order, one where humanity reigns supreme and other species are either subjugated or eradicated. His aggressive rhetoric begins to sway many of the human colonies, especially those who see the divine energy as a weapon to protect their future. On the other side, Leora Darnes, who has led humanity's forces with a steady hand, finds herself growing increasingly disillusioned by Eris's ambitions. She understands that their power is a double-edged sword. While it has allowed them to defend themselves and secure victories, it also threatens to turn them into the very monsters they once fought against. Leora advocates for a more cautious approach, one that focuses on rebuilding the galaxy, forging alliances, and ensuring that humanity's rise is based on respect and cooperation rather than fear and domination. Cade Corin, ever the scientist, becomes consumed with understanding the divine power, trying to decipher its origins and true purpose. His research reveals that the power within humanity is not a gift, but a remnant of an ancient cosmic force, one that, when misused, can lead to catastrophic consequences. As Cade delves deeper into the ancient texts and artifacts, he uncovers the grim truth. The divine energy was sealed away by humanity's ancestors for a reason. It was too dangerous, too volatile to be left unchecked. Cade fears that if humanity continues to embrace the power without understanding its full potential, they risk unleashing an uncontrollable force that could bring about the end of all civilizations. Despite Leora, Cade, and their allies' efforts to rein in the growing faction led by Eris, the situation spirals out of control. Eris's supporters, emboldened by their victories, begin to see any attempt at peace or restraint as weakness. A civil war begins to brew, with Eris's faction seeking to seize power by force, while Leora and Cade's faction struggles to maintain a sense of unity. Both sides are now wielding the same divine power, but for vastly different purposes, one for conquest and domination, the other for preservation and peace. The conflict comes to a head when Eris launches a surprise attack on one of the human colonies that has been sympathetic to Leora's vision of peace. The colony is devastated in an overwhelming show of force, the divine energy unleashed on it in a brutal display of raw power. The act shocks the entire human population, and for the first time, the full scope of humanity's power is fully realized. Eris's faction has crossed a line, and now the galaxy begins to see humanity for what they truly are, beings capable of unspeakable destruction. Leora, devastated by the betrayal, is forced to confront the reality of the situation. The war within humanity is no longer avoidable, and the once unified human race is now on the brink of collapse. As she prepares for the inevitable confrontation with Eris's forces, Leora realizes that the only way to save humanity from itself is to stop the use of the divine power altogether. But doing so will come at a high cost, and Leora knows that she may be forced to make the ultimate sacrifice to ensure that humanity does not lose its soul. As the civil war escalates, Cade begins to work in secret, searching for a way to nullify the divine power, or, at the very least, contain it. But time is running out. With both sides now using the energy to fuel their war, it's clear that humanity's future depends on whether they can find a way to reunite, or if their internal divisions will destroy them before they can even face the rest of the galaxy. The civil war that has torn humanity apart rages on. Divided by differing ideals, the once united human race now faces a battle not only for control of their future, but for the very essence of their identity. Eris Valen's faction, driven by ambition and the desire for power, continues to use the divine energy without restraint, unleashing devastating attacks on those who oppose them. Leora Darnes, Cade Corin, and their supporters, committed to preserving humanity's integrity, fight to stop the spread of chaos and ensure that the divine power is not used to destroy them from within. The war between the factions has escalated to a near cataclysmic level. Entire colonies are caught in the crossfire, and the once thriving human territories are now shattered, with entire populations displaced or decimated. The divine power, which was once seen as a gift, has become a curse. Its use has led to not only physical destruction but emotional and psychological tolls, as both sides struggle with the increasingly corrupting influence it has on those who wield it. Eris, in particular, has become a living embodiment of the energy's seductive grip. His desire for conquest blinds him to the fact that humanity's very survival is now at risk. Leora, devastated by the fallout from Eris's betrayal, realizes that their only hope of saving humanity lies in stopping the use of the divine power altogether. Cade, now more deeply connected to the ancient knowledge he has uncovered, reveals to Leora that the divine energy, while potent, is part of a much larger cosmic mechanism, one that has the potential to tear apart not just humanity, but the fabric of reality itself. The more it is used, the more it destabilizes the delicate balance of the universe. The ancient civilization that once wielded the power sealed it away for a reason. It was too dangerous, too destructive, and its use would ultimately bring about cosmic entropy. In a desperate bid to save humanity and the galaxy from total annihilation, Leora and Cade devise a plan to end the civil war and strip humanity of the divine power. However, the cost is unimaginable. The process involves an ancient, dangerous ritual that will effectively lock away the divine energy from every human being, removing it from their genetic makeup entirely. The ritual, however, comes with a dire consequence. The energy cannot be contained without destroying the essence of what it means to be human. In essence, those who undergo the ritual will lose the very abilities that have made them extraordinary. They will return to being the beasts they were once seen as, powerless and vulnerable. With the galaxy watching, Leora makes the ultimate decision to sacrifice humanity's newfound power for the greater good. She broadcasts a message to all human colonies, urging them to lay down their arms and embrace the ritual to strip themselves of the divine energy. She pleads for humanity to remember who they are, not by the power they wield, but by their ability to rise above their darker instincts and create a future built on peace, not domination. As the factions come together to reluctantly accept the ritual, Eris Valen refuses to relent. Consumed by his thirst for power, he leads one final rebellion against Leora and her supporters. In a climactic confrontation, Leora and Eris face off in a battle that will decide the fate of humanity. As the fight unfolds, Leora realizes that the only way to stop Eris is to confront the energy head-on, using the ritual herself to sever the link to the divine power permanently. In a final heartbreaking moment, Leora sacrifices her own abilities, channeling the ritual's energy into herself and stripping the divine power from her own body. The ritual succeeds, but not without cost. Eris is defeated, but in the aftermath, humanity is left to rebuild. The divine energy is gone, and with it, the abilities that once made them extraordinary. The galaxy, still reeling from the destructive power humanity once wielded, now faces a new challenge: understanding how to coexist with a species that, while no longer a threat, has proven they are capable of immense strength and resilience. Leora, now powerless but resolute, looks out over the ruins of their civilization. Humanity is no longer the beasts they were once labeled, but they are also no longer the divine conquerors they had become. They must rebuild from the ground up, this time guided by the lessons of their past. That true strength lies not in the power one possesses, but in the choices one makes. And in that realization, humanity begins its most difficult journey yet. The journey of rediscovery, where they must find new ways to define their place in the galaxy, not by their powers, but by their hearts.